Hi there, welcome to iTWire TV. Today we're joined by our special guest, the Qualys CEO, Sumedh Thakar. Thank you so much for joining us today, Sumedh.
David, thank you so much for having me.
Excellent. Now, Sumedh, I understand Qualys, is a leader in cybersecurity, helping companies manage risk. I guess that's my understanding. Can you tell me, to you, what is Qualys?
Yeah, for me, having been at Qualys for 21 years, that's home. But if you look at what our customers really look at from Qualys is we are, from the last 25 years, we have been a key part of cyber risk management for all of our customers globally, including in Australia. And the vulnerability management part that we really started focusing on has been the core component of managing any cyber risk, right? I mean, if you look at a lot of the attacks are happening with people just compromising known vulnerabilities that have not been patched, and it's such a core capability that is needed for any cyber program. So for us, for many years, that's really what Qualys has been. And the last few years, as threats have evolved, we have also evolved to be the key partner for a lot of organizations globally in helping them mitigate and reduce the possibility of an attack happening in their environment.
Yeah, wonderful. And so today we're here to talk about Qualys's recent launch of its cloud-based risk operations center. So we've heard of the SOC, we've heard of the NOC, now we have the ROC. I guess before we get into that, could you tell me what a ROC is?
Yeah, I think you framed it really well, right? You had the knock, and then uh, originally, if you look at the knock, was really just monitoring all the network stuff. It was a more of an IT thing, and then people started monitoring some security events, and then as the security part really matured to detect if there is an attacker in your environment, that matured into a SOC, right? So you kind of the SOC pulled out from the knock, maybe sitting next to each other. I think the evolution and the maturity in the space has continued to the point where risk factors are coming in such a huge number for any organization that it's really not anymore about the risk whack-a-mole, right? Where, okay, I see something here, let me go fix this, fix this. People are saying we have too many risk findings with too many different tools just focused on risk. I'm not talking about EDRs that are detecting after an event has happened. I'm talking about code scanning tools. I'm talking about application scanning tools. I'm talking about vulnerabilities, cloud misconfigurations, and now AI misconfigurations. So many things coming. How do you really figure out? And you can't fix everything, like that's a given, right? At this point, nobody has the budget to fix everything. So what is important, and how do you operationalize that so you have a repeatable process every single time, that every single day as risks come in, triaging them, looking at what's important based on threat intelligence, what's important based on business context, what's important in terms of reporting to the board. Board does not want to hear counts of vulnerabilities and issues. They want to hear about money, right? How much money is at risk here?
Yeah.
And then how do you make sure that you're remediate? Because it's like you can build all kinds of nice dashboards that show you all the problems and take selfies with those. But if you don't actually get things fixed, there is no value in all the money that you spend on building dashboards. So remediation becomes super important. So what is a risk operations center? Is the concept that you bring all of your assets, you bring all of your risk findings across all of your assets from multiple tools, apply threat intelligence to find out for your business, for your vertical, what is really important, and then be able to apply the context of business, right? Many times I ask people, okay, you have two business units. One has a score of 750 on 1,000, another has a score of 950 on 1,000 risk score. Which one should you fix first? They say, of course, the 950. That's high risk. I said, now let me tell you that the 950 is on a business unit that's making $2 million a year, and the 750 is on something that makes you 500 million a
Mhm.
year. Now tell me which one will you fix? Immediately people say, wait, the 750, right? And so you've got to figure out, while it might be very exploitable, is it important to your business? And how much risk do you have and how much money you stand to lose? And then create the alerts and then wake up the right teams or apply the right remediation so you finally get it fixed. And the ROC is essentially the idea that you create a formalized risk operations platform with the process, with the people, and the technology that goes around, so that no matter what risk, no matter what tool you have, you put it in the context of what it means to your business and make a decision if you want to fix it or not, and then go ahead fix it, right? And that's really what we crystallize. Because today, if you ask anybody, especially the CISOs, hey, what's your risk posture? they will tell you I have 10 different dashboards, right? The top 10 from my code scanning tool. I have a dashboard from my cloud security. I have a dashboard from my vulnerability. But that doesn't mean anything to the board, right? It absolutely, even if you say we fix 50,000 patches, the board says, so what? What does that mean to the business, right? Did you reduce the risk by half? And the funny thing with risk is the only question you ask when you talk about risk is how much.
Yeah.
And almost nobody's able to articulate how much risk they have from cyber events to their business. So there is a maturation that is going on in the market. There is definitely people are trying to put the spend of cyber in the context of the overall business, and CISOs are evolving from being the guy or the gal that is trying to fix and everything into a business partner, right? Being at the level of a C-level executive who's really thinking from a business perspective. And I always say that as important as it is to say what needs to be fixed, it is equally important to say what does not need to be fixed, right? Imagine CISOs who can go and say, hey, you don't need to fix this because it's not important for the business. Look at how much love they're going to get from the IT team instead of the hate that they get right now, right? So that's the concept. I know a bit of a longer answer, but it kind of sets you the context of why a risk operations center concept really came into being, especially as we talk to global customers, because we have some of the largest customers globally. Almost every large bank uses us, so we heard a lot from them on this risk-based approach that they need to take.
No, that's really interesting. But in one way, I guess companies, I mean, the nature of business is you're always dealing with risk. Would you say that risk has become more of a critical focus for business today? And why is that?
I wouldn't say it has become more of a focus. Like any business from the beginning of time has always hedged on risk, right? Like even back in the day, your risk could have been, okay, there's a physical risk of the location. Maybe there is a risk of natural events. So every business, always looks at different types of risk. Now, what has happened in the last 20 years as every business has become digital,
Yes.
the risk of cyber attack to the digital infrastructure has increased exponentially, right? And so if you look at every business has become digital. You're able to open bank accounts today by taking a selfie on your phone, right? Back are gone are the days where you had to fill out a lot of paper. You have your banking interface today. Anything you do with the bank, anything you do with the government agency, a lot of it is all over digital interface, right? You look at companies like Uber, they're all leveraging digital technology to disrupt a taxi industry that's been there for a long time. And so as your business today becomes fully digital, even the attackers are saying, well, if you are a bank robber, would you want to go and try to hit 50 different cities for 50 different locations, or do you want to focus on, let's try to get into the network and find that one server, as happened with one of the banks in one of the countries in Asia. They lost $90 million in an hour, right? And so that you're never going to make that kind of money in a physical attack. So the risk has increased in the sense that digitization means that a lot of what people can lose is now focused on digital assets, less on physical assets, right? And so, of course, then the risk goes with that. And so there is, of course, a focus to say, well, we need to reduce the possibility of this attack happening. And that's where the conversation has been. And so that, of course, like any business, you have to get comfortable with a certain amount of risk. It's never about zero risk, right? That never really works. You have to say, well, I don't think this is going to happen. And so I'm going to reduce, I'm going to take this risk, but I want to bring it down because I don't want to take the risk of losing that much money. Now, you have countries where the digital transformation is even more than just losing money. It is pivotal to the entire economy of the country. It is pivotal to the government, the way they interact with the people. So in Brazil, in India, you have countries where biometric identity is a key part of every transaction that happens, right? People are able to walk into ATMs without a card, use their thumbprint, let us, that iris scan, and then, iris scan, and then basically be able to withdraw money, right? And if that is, you don't have trust in the digital systems, then people are not going to use those systems, and you're going to go back to not having the financial inclusion. So I think digital risk has been increasing, and that is something where, I mean, and today, like, if you lose your password, you can reset your password. But if in the case that I mentioned, where, for example, in India, if your thumbprint data is compromised, you can't grow another thumb. right? So how critical is that, right? This is a really important risk. But at the end of the day, like any business, there is a certain amount of money you're willing to spend to reduce a certain amount of risk. And that's the equation that everybody's now currently looking at is digital infrastructure does bring risk, but doesn't mean you can spend all your money on mitigating that risk.
Yeah, no, thank you. And so I guess why does managing risk pose such significant challenges, and what are some of the primary issues that they're facing in this area?
Managing risk always is becomes a challenge when we have too many risk factors that can cause an issue, right? So in the past, it was companies. I mean, when I joined Qualys, I remember anybody who would scan their network once a quarter was considered like gold standard, right? That was enough. Today, everything has become digital. You have cloud, you have containers, you have remote endpoints, you have mobile phones, you have IT devices, OT devices. So there are so many different areas from which you could get compromised or attacks could come that it is overwhelming for many people to say, well, I'm finding so many issues, but I can't fix everything. And by the way, not every issue actually leads to an exposure, right? So taking the noise and then reducing it into indicators of exposure is challenging for people because then you need to know your asset. That is first place where everybody fails. Very few companies, if at all, even know how many assets they have. You have to bring all your risk findings, which today are sitting in different tools. You have to then apply threat intelligence, which they don't have. They have to subscribe to some service. Then they have to come up with a way to apply business context, which many times I find that CISOs are actually not aware of how to look at how much revenue loss they can have to the business by business entities. They are so focused on fixing everything. And then ultimately you have to get it remediated. So there are so many different aspects of managing a risk is first even knowing and detecting and then prioritizing and then fixing it, which becomes a bit of a challenge. And so I think that's where the opportunity is to say risk management is all about reducing the possibility of that risk that you see materializing. Doesn't mean you have to fix everything, but if I could say, well, there are 10 things that could cause an issue, but these four I have the highest possibility, and the other six are you really have to have, the moon in a certain place and a star in a certain place for something like that to happen. Well, maybe you can hedge on that and say, well, I don't, this is fine. I can take the risk because it's really a probability super low, right? So that's a lot of work. That's a lot of work for a small security team to do. And so that's where people find it challenging more recently in the last few years as more tools have come about to figure out where are they going to focus on managing the risk and how are they going to do that.
Yeah, wonderful. So getting back to the Qualys Rock then, that's exciting. So can you tell me a bit more about it? What capabilities does it offer users? What makes it
Yeah.
stand out as an industry first solution compared to others? And I suppose, will it continue to grow and evolve as business needs change?
Yeah, yeah. Super excited because again, the Risk Operations Center, we really brought the concept out at our conference, and that is not something that we call as a product from Qualys because I think that irrespective of whether you use Qualys or not, I think every security leader needs to be thinking of how they're going to set up a Risk Operations Center, right? And of course, you can do that yourself. Some companies are trying to do that with what they call as security data lakes, right? They can basically take data from multiple different tools and they try to do it themselves. Or you could try to do that with a managed service provider who's trying to outsource this to you using a SIM. But we found that these approaches are very costly. They're very individual and very hard to maintain and change. And so we saw the opportunity to introduce Qualys's version of a risk operation center, which we call as enterprise true risk management, right? Is the ability to bring enterprise level risk factors into a single platform and then provide a way for customers to really make sense out of their multiple tools and then be able to do some remediation. Now, in the past, cyber vendors typically always say, I'm the single pane of glass. You need to replace all your other tools. And we've seen this. This is not going to be a reality. It will never will. So the approach we took with enterprise true risk management or ETM solution is to say, well, you could use Qualys capabilities wherever it makes sense to you. But by the way, if you have existing tools that you like, you're happy with, we don't want to go and try to replace those, but we want to be a layer on top of that that is helping you pull from your existing investment, pull the information from your existing investment, and we will provide you a better ROI on your existing investment by correlating this data across different capabilities and across different tools. And so the ETM ROC that we release as part of what Qualys does
Yeah.
nothing. CFO says, I don't know what that means. Like, are we safer or not? Just tell me that, right? And if you say yes, by how much, right? Are we safer worth $5 million we spent on this, or are we just safer worth $100,000, right? So the reporting that we are generating out of the Qualys ETM ROC is to say, here's a $500 million business unit, 500 million a year. If a cyber attack happens, the possibility of a loss is about 10 million a day. The current score based on the risk factors from all of your tool indicates that you're at a high level of that possibility of that attack happening, right? 75%, let's say, right? An acceptable threshold should be about 30% for your business, because depending on your risk appetite, you might say 30% is okay. And then you can say, to go from 75% possibility of an attack to 30% possibility of an attack, I need to implement these three controls. These three controls will cost me $650,000. And now I can make a case to the board, to the CFO, to say, here's the equation of what this means to the business. Now you will get the funding, and then you can go back the next quarter or 2 quarters later and show actual measurable progress. That is ROI in cybersecurity. ROI in cybersecurity is not saying, well, we spent all this money and an attack did not happen. It is to say, we took a look at what we see as a possible risk. We then applied these controls to bring the risk level down. Again, there is nothing like zero risk. You always take risks, but then after that, you can now remediate that. And so the Qualys Enterprise Risk Management Platform is about implementing the concept of a ROC. And the other thing that we do is we work with our managed service partners, right? So a customer may not have the expertise to do all of these. They're struggling today already. So we announced the concept of an MROC, which is the Managed Risk Operations Center. So partners can offer services on top of that, which could be a risk advisory service. It could be a risk monitoring service. It could be a risk remediation service. So they can leverage our platform as the base, but then they can have consultative approach with the organizations to help them think about how to implement a ROC. And that's the exciting part. And then at the end of the day, like with any risk, the last part of risk after you have remediated and mitigated is transfer the remaining risk to somebody else, right? And that's what cyber insurance companies are there for. And so the ETM allows you to leverage your investment in the scoring mechanism, in the ROC from Qualys, to then say that if my overall score is low, a company that we partnered with called Melberry, with them, you can basically say, if the score is low, they will give you a discount on your premium, because for them, they're incentivized to bring more people to their platform who have lower risk. So their chance of having to pay out goes low. That's good business, right? So they are incentivized to do that as well. And so it's a very holistic approach with what we have done with Qualys ETM and ROC. It's not just, okay, we put out a little product and we say, okay, you good luck implementing it.
Yeah. Wonderful. That's exciting about the rock. Then, but what's also exciting is I understand Qualys is celebrating its 25th anniversary this year. So, congratulations on that milestone. I suppose looking back at the company's evolution, what do you think has been the most notable changes Qualys has done and implemented, and what can we expect to come?
Yeah, thank you very much. It's been super exciting for all of us here at Qualys, especially for me being here for 21 of those years. I was one of the early developers who joined the platform. So, and at a personal level, it's been a great story for me joining as an engineer and taking over as a CEO and running the company as a CEO. We're a multi-billion-dollar company listed out here in the United States, and so it really shows that apart from what we have done in the field of cybersecurity at a personal level, we have really elevated a lot of people, given so many opportunities, and seen people gain a lot of success who have been at Qualys, and success in many different ways. And so that's really the anchoring point for me, is the being really happy about the impact that we have been able to have on our employees. Happy employees make happy customers, and so The global reach of Qualys today is, really huge, considering that we are in the 2,000 employee range only, right? We're only about 2,000 people. But the thing that almost every large bank in the world is using Qualys, many airlines use Qualys. Qualys is used across the board by many governments. So a relatively small team of people being able to have that kind of impact is super exciting. And then, all of that is really being driven by this maniacal focus on constant innovation and evolution, right? We didn't just sit there, and we were one of the first ones to come up with the idea of using a SaaS platform for security. And then over the years, we continuously kept challenging the status quo, focusing on organically building capabilities that are important to customer. And we're talking about risk, but taking risks to say we're going to do things that are not done in the market, and because we're listening to our customers. As an example, when we first came up with SaaS, that was one example. The second example is when we added patch management capability, right? So in the early days, no vulnerability scanning vendor was deploying patches, but then I started thinking, well, customers are struggling to get fixes done, not to find more issues. They're already not fixing the issues that they're able to find. And so we took that risk to say, we're going to come up with the first vendor to have patch management as a capability with vulnerability management. Now, the interesting part is the only thing you actually do after vulnerability scanning is patching. That's the way to fix it. And so we went out in the market, we disrupted that at the market at the time. And today, just, we're entered November now. And so within just the first few months of this year, from January 1, Qualys agents have deployed 78 million patches in our customer environment, right? So that's a great impact, because every patch, I look at it as this way, right? Every patch that Qualys has deployed is a denied opportunity for an attacker to have attacked one of our customers, right? And so that's an impact. And then we expanded now into overall risk management, came up with this idea of taking data from multiple tools along with the remediation. And now we have capabilities around AI security, which is becoming a challenge for many companies. And so what we are always going to be is an innovation first led company, an engineering first led company, a product management led company that is constantly looking to evolve. And so, the next 25 years, I don't know what new technologies are going to come. 5 years ago, we wouldn't be talking about containers or AI. So I would not venture to talk about what new thing we will have in 5 years. But I know for sure that no matter what technology comes, customers will be wondering, how much should I spend to secure this technology? And
Yeah.
that is a question that we will continuously be working to answer, and we will continue to innovate in that space. And I'm super excited and very proud of the employees here at Qualys who have really built out such an amazing capability.
Yes, no, well done, and congratulations to you and the team. That's been awesome.
Thank you so much.
You've been really insightful, interesting. Is there anything else you'd like to share with our audience while we're talking?
No, I mean, I think your audience today are really business minded. They're really looking at the bigger picture of the business. And so, the only really thing that I talk to a lot of CISOs when they ask me is to really think about what is the right financial equation for you when it comes to cybersecurity, and how are you able to articulate risk and really push forward in the direction of becoming business partners to the business and speaking that language that the board and the CEOs want to understand, rather than sort of the operational aspect of just trying to fix anything and everything. And I think that is what is the future of cybersecurity, is more about the ability to quantify that from a business perspective and less about the exact technology that you use. So, that's something that I have a lot of conversations with CISOs, and this is what they always ask me.
Yeah, wonderful. No, thank you so much, Sumedh. You've been really interesting and insightful and awesome, and I've enjoyed that a lot. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, David.